So when I do long runs, I try to keep my heart rate at about 75% of my max heart rate. The other day I was doing a long run, I was struggling a little bit keeping it that low. I was wanting to get too high. But I kind of know what went on, and so I want to talk to you today about factors that influence our heart rate when we run, what you should be doing, what I should have done, and how I ended up managing the situation. Hi, I'm Ralph, and welcome to the Ageless Runner. Now, there's some things, I can't change, you can't change. For example, our age impacts heart rate, fitness level, stress. If you're stressed, that's going to impact your heart rate. You're not going to change it as going into a run. There's three other things I want to talk to you about today that you not so much that you can control, but at least you can manage, do a better job of managing than what I did. And the first of those is intensity. Now, intensity, the biggest knob we have to turn with intensity, of course, is our pace, and that's typically what I do when I'm doing a long run. I'm trying to control my heart rate. I'll either speed up or slow down, trying to keep it in the range I want. But sometimes some things influence intensity other than just pace. For example, hills. I have some gradual hills that impact it, so either I need to really slow down or walk. But one unique variable I had that day I don't often have, and that is wind. There's a lot of wind that day, and depending on where I was in my run, what direction I was running, had a fairly strong headwind. So even though I was trying to go slow, I was still struggling to do that wind. Obviously, that influenced my heart rate. But I don't think that was the really biggest cause of my problem. There were two other reasons I think had a bigger influence. The next one is temperature and humidity. Now, temperature and humidity is typically the reason, at least in summertime, why I have problems controlling my heart rate. The body starts getting hot. A couple of things happen. One is the body tries to move blood vessels to the skin. It's trying to get some evaporative cooling, cool off the internal organs. Well, the heart has to work harder to do that. It's got to pump harder to get that blood to the skin. Second thing we do is we sweat. When the sweat gets on our skin, it evaporates. That provides some cooling. Again, when we lose sweat, we lose blood volume, which means when our heart pumps, every time it pumps less blood. So to keep the oxygen supply to our muscles and our organs, it's got to pump faster. And of course, when we sweat, we lose electrolytes. We know electrolytes are important to control our heart rhythms, our heartbeat. Of course, what you should be doing is wearing moisture wicking, loose-fitting clothes. Pick the weights that are appropriate for the temperature and humidity conditions. Remember that lighter colored clothes will do a better job reflecting the sun's radiant energy than dark clothes, so keep that in mind. And not only stay well hydrated, but also make sure you're replacing those electrolytes, either an additive to your water, which is what I do, or there's some energy gels out there that add extra electrolytes. But make sure you're replacing that sodium, potassium, and calcium during a run from all of your sweating. So what did I do wrong? Well, on that day, it wasn't real warm. It was about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 24 degrees C. It was very sunny, and I went in the afternoon. I knew the sun was going to be beating on me, but I was lazy that day. But I didn't want to sunscreen my arms. I'm a skin cancer survivor, so I either sunscreen or cover. I decided to cover my arms, so I wore a long sleeve running shirt. It's maybe a little bit heavier weight than my normal short sleeve shirts. And of course I had my running vest on. I think I just got too warm because I had my arms covered up. It was a little heavier shirt and just got too warm. And I think that extra heat, my body couldn't dissipate the heat maybe as efficiently, and it maybe caused my heart rate to be a little bit elevated. So that was my first mistake I made. Now the second mistake, is going into the third variable, and that is diet. So as I said, I did an afternoon run that day because I'm training for eventually doing a nighttime trail run in about 6 weeks. So I decided to do an afternoon run. So I had lunch, and my mistake was, and I kind of knew this going into it, is I ate a very high fat lunch. It's fish, but it's very high fat. So now there's fat in my stomach, and we have all this fat in our stomach. The body's got to work hard to digest it, right? So it's pumping more blood in there. And interestingly, some studies suggest when we eat a high-fat meal before intense exercise, the body perceives the need to work harder for whatever reason, and so it's going to work harder and make the heart rate faster. So I think that meal caused my heart to work harder to do that digestion. And then what I also did after the meal is typically what I do after lunch is I had a cup of coffee. And that wasn't my first cup of coffee today, it was probably my third. So I go out and do this run. About 45 minutes later, my body's trying to digest. I'm dealing with the heat. I got this caffeine stimulating me. Again, other stimulants can do it too. If you take certain medications or whatever, can stimulate it. So all those things are working against me, and I think that was one of the big culprits combined with the heat that I was feeling that day. So what should I have done differently? Well, a couple things I could have done. I should have eaten a lower fat meal and maybe either skipped or had less coffee, or I should have waited longer before I ran. I only waited about 45 minutes. I probably should have waited a couple hours, if not 3 hours, to get that digestion well processed through my body before I went out and did that run. So I was where I was that day. I was having difficulty controlling my heart rate, keeping it down at that 75% level. So what did I do? What do I do? Well, the couple times it's happened to me before, what I do is stop watching my heart rate. I give up on trying to control it at 75% all the time and start using perceived effort. How difficult am I working? I know the amount of effort I want to expend in doing a long run. I just try and maintain that effort, whether I'm running in a headwind or I'm getting warm. I just try and keep that effort up. I will watch my heart rate, and if it gets up to like 85 to 90% of my max heart rate, I'll stop running and I'll start walking. No matter where I am in a run walk cycle, I will take a walk break. And I'll walk until it gets down below that 75% level, and then I'll pick up and start running again. So that's what I do when I get into that situation. Suggestion for you. So one of the key messages of this video is, remember, it's just not pace that impacts your heart rate, your exertion. Other factors, environmental factors can do that. What you eat, how hot it is, how humid it is. Be mindful of those, take the necessary precautions, and plan accordingly, and you'll be able to have a good run and keep your heart rate where you want. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please scroll down and hit that like icon. If you're new here, I'd love to have you stick around. Please subscribe also. Thanks again and happy running. Quiet dog.